India is in the headlines again, this time not for its growth, not for its diplomacy, but because of oil. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to impose steep new tariffs on Indian goods, claiming that India is profiting off cheap Russian crude. But here's the real question. Is India being unfairly targeted? Does the U.S. itself follow a higher standard? Or is this just old-school power politics in a new avatar? Let's break it down. Watch till the end as we uncover what the Indian government's official response reveals, compare global trade data, and explain why India stands firm. This isn't the first time Trump has taken aim at India. Now in 2025, with elections looming in the U.S., Trump is back on the tariff train. He recently accused India of buying massive amounts of Russian oil and even reselling it in global markets for big profits. He warned of substantially increasing tariffs on India. But here's where it gets interesting. India's Ministry of External Affairs immediately responded and did not mince words. They said India was being unfairly singled out, even though its actions are neither illegal nor outside the norms of global trade. Let's be clear. There are no international sanctions on Russian oil sales that prohibit India from purchasing. As India rightly pointed out, it is revealing that the very nations criticizing India are themselves indulging in trade with Russia. And they're right. Let's look at the numbers. According to European Commission data, the European Union's trade with Russia in 2024 was significantly higher than India's, covering billions of euros in goods and services, including everything from industrial equipment to specialized chemicals. Meanwhile, the United States, though it has reduced some imports, continues to trade with Russia in critical sectors. This includes uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear power plants, palladium used in electric vehicles, fertilizers, and other essential chemicals. Yet despite these ongoing transactions, why is India being singled out? India has made it clear its energy policy is guided by national interest, not foreign pressure. With a population of 1.4 billion and a rapidly growing economy, securing affordable energy is not optional. It's essential. Before the Ukraine war, Russia was a minor supplier of India's oil, just 2.5% of imports. Today, that share has increased substantially, making Russia India's largest crude supplier. Why? Because it was the U.S. and its allies who first encouraged such purchases to stabilize global oil prices. In fact, U.S. officials, including former Ambassador Eric Garcetti, have admitted this publicly. That makes today's criticism and threats of substantial tariffs on Indian imports both hypocritical and strategically misplaced. India's Energy Minister, Hardeep Singh Puri, recently said, "We were encouraged, even advised, to buy Russian oil within the price cap. If we hadn't, oil prices could have gone up to $130 per barrel." India's purchases of Russian crude have actually helped keep global energy prices stable, not spike them. And more importantly, they've helped shield Indian consumers and industries from soaring costs during a global energy crunch. Now, Trump is threatening secondary tariffs on Indian goods, but India is not flinching. Instead, it's calling out the hypocrisy, asking why countries with far larger trade volumes with Russia are not facing similar penalties. India's message is simple. We will not compromise our national interest. Energy security is not negotiable, and we will not be pushed around by any superpower. This is strategic autonomy in action. The irony is, if the U.S. does impose these tariffs, India could come out stronger. Here's how. The domestic industries would have to innovate faster. Tariffs would act as a catalyst, pushing domestic industries in India to break out of comfort zones and embrace faster innovation. Indian companies, especially in manufacturing and technology, would be compelled to modernize their processes, reduce inefficiencies, and adopt cutting-edge technologies to remain competitive. The need to survive and thrive in a tougher global trade environment would drive sharper focus on R&D, smarter product design, and scalable quality, turning adversity into a breeding ground for ingenuity. At the same time, Indian exporters would be nudged toward discovering and building new trade corridors beyond their traditional partners. While the U.S. remains a major destination for Indian goods, overdependence on any one market comes with strategic risk. This moment would accelerate India's pivot towards emerging markets across Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East, regions with rising demand, growing populations, and a hunger for cost-effective alternatives. Strengthening trade in these geographies wouldn't just offer revenue diversification, it would deepen India's role in shaping the Global South's economic future. But perhaps the most important outcome of these potential tariffs would be the reinforcement and acceleration of India's Make in India mission. Born out of a vision for self-reliance and global manufacturing leadership, this movement is about far more than slogans. It's about building the kind of domestic capability that can withstand international volatility. The pressure of tariffs would push Indian manufacturers to raise their standards, adopt world-class practices, and compete not on price alone, but on value, reliability, and resilience. It would supercharge investments in sectors like electronics, pharmaceuticals, defense production, and electric vehicles, all of which are already key focus areas under the government's production-linked incentive schemes. When Indian goods are able to compete and win, even in the face of added trade barriers, it proves something bigger, that India is no longer the workshop of the world's leftovers, but a serious player capable of leading the next era of global industrial growth. Tariffs have always been a tool of global economics, used by every major power, from the US to China, but used fairly, not as a weapon against growing economies like India. Trump's threats may generate headlines, but India's calm and firm response is what stands out. It shows maturity, strength, and confidence, that India is no longer the junior partner in global trade, but a rising power with its own compass. Economically, India can absorb the short-term impact, but it won't easily give up its ties with Russia. So is Trump's rhetoric just politics? Or is this the moment India shows the world how to rise, not by confrontation, but by conviction? India is not just reacting, it's accelerating, powering ahead with strategic reforms, bold self-reliance initiatives, and new global partnerships that make today's noise irrelevant tomorrow. India has launched a 1 trillion rupee R&D innovation fund to fuel growth in sectors like EVs, clean energy, and advanced materials, all critical for energy independence and global competitiveness. Legislation to boost domestic oil and gas exploration is also underway, aiming to reduce import dependence and reinforce energy stability for decades to come. Meanwhile, its manufacturing sector is estimated at $1.62 trillion in 2025, expected to reach $2.3 trillion by 2030, growing at a robust approximately 7.3% CAGR. This rise is fueled by strategic programs like PLI schemes, which are designed to increase exports in electronics, pharmaceuticals, and auto sectors. The government has approved a record 11.2 trillion rupees, $125 billion infrastructure plan for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, with strong focus on green energy, ports, logistics, and defense corridors. On Global Wind Day 2025, India celebrated scaling up wind capacity to 51.5 gigawatts, making it the third largest renewable energy producer worldwide, a testament to self-reliance and green industrial policy. Even if tariffs escalate, they won't derail this transformation. Instead, they could supercharge domestic capability and innovation, force export diversification across new global markets, drive capital towards Make in India, sectors that matter most. If U.S. tariffs rise, Indian products don't lose value, they gain resilience. India is not just resisting, it's rewriting the game.